So we'll talk about everything that a beginner needs right now to get better. And the first and very first thing that I want you to do is pause the video, go into chess.com, and I want you to change the timer of your play from 10 minutes all the way into 30 minutes, or 30 or 15, 10, but a longer time frame. This longer time frame is going to then let you think, and it's going to let you be more precise with every move that you make. So you probably can understand you're going to have the same rate, you're going to be at the same rating, but just you can now think better just because you have more time. That's the first action step that I want you to take literally right now. Now, to get better at the game, as a complete beginner, you have basically 4 things that you need to focus on. First of all, opening. The second one is opening principles. The third one is tactics. And the fourth one is avoiding the big blunders that happen in chess. And as a beginner, basically need to master all these 4. Don't think about endgames or positional understanding or attacks if you haven't yet mastered these 4. If you're anywhere below 1100 or 1200, it's because one of these key things is missing. Usually the fourth one misses for everyone, the part of blunders, but usually it's because of one of these. Let's now talk about how to solve that. I want us to start speaking about the greatest reason that most beginners actually stay stuck, and it's actually the fourth one. It's not any of the first 3. The fourth one is usually the most critical. Therefore, I want us to first of all talk about this one. We're going to fix your blunders, basically. Then once we do this, we're going to also understand, you're going to then understand how to utilize the blunders that your opponents are making, right? That's the basic of being above a beginner. That's done. And the second thing that we're going to do is then, once we fix these blunders, we're going then to use the first 3. So, very quickly, I pulled off a game that I've had when I just started, right? You can see it on the screen right now. It's not going to take long. And in here, black, right? Let's place you as black, for example, in this exact position and ask, how would you play if you were black in this exact example? Notice again that the white knight is pinned, considering also that your own black knight is also pinned to the king. The first thing that pops into your mind is probably something to do with this knight, right? It's probably to move the knight somewhere, right? Because he's stuck. Some of you were probably thinking about something else, and now that I've said that the knight is the one that's threatened, so it needs to move, then you've basically were like, wait a minute, the knight. It's the knight that needs to move, right? That switch shows us a problem. The main problem that beginners have in this phase is that they make a move. For example, black have made the blunder bishop to g4, and only then they realize they've made the blunder, okay? Because the knight was trapped, the knight was under threat, and now it got captured in the following way. Bishop takes, queen exchange, and now basically black is in trouble, in great trouble, right? He's down a piece almost, but also because of the way that white captured the knight, right? He didn't capture it immediately, but the way he have done it, he also ruined his pawn structure. So now black is in great trouble. But this whole sequence will never happen if black basically noticed it. Going back from this, now we understand that blunders are basically the main cause that any player is staying below 1000. 1000 at least. How do we solve blunders like this one? It's very simple. You ask 3 questions, just 3. First of all, how can I improve my position? How can I damage the position of my opponent? And is there a blunder on the board if I make the certain move, right? Then you're gonna ask, how can I improve my position? How can I hurt my position? You're gonna have a few thoughts, right? In here, one of the main ones is probably to do something with this bishop, with this knight. This knight is split, so you can't move it, and maybe something to do with this bishop. So for example, take and then move the knight. Something random, right? Of a few random thoughts. Then what you're gonna do is you're gonna test each one of them to see if it's viable. So I'm gonna either improve my bishop or bring up the knight. But then you're gonna take a look at this, and you're gonna imagine, if I was in this position, then white could simply take my knight. And you would discard this move, and then you would continue with the move that you wanted initially. The computer likes this move, and the game would continue this way. Sometimes you'll make better moves, sometimes you will make worse moves, but what you will not do again is make blunders, like this one. You may still make blunders, but they wouldn't be as obvious, for example, as this particular one. They'd be a bit more complicated. It would be more difficult for opponents to find them. This is talking about the one mover. Now, how do you take the most from this? How do you implement it? The way to implement it is these three questions before every move, up until the point that it's so natural that you're doing it from instinct, basically, that it's intuition for you. That's the way to solve blunders, and this is where most beginners actually fail. For 4 entire months, I've been basically stuck at like 700, 800 when I started like 4 years ago, because I couldn't solve this problem. I didn't solve this problem. If you are anywhere below 1000, I can guarantee you focus mainly on avoiding these one movers. This will fix your rating pretty much overnight also, if you're applying good principles that we're also going to talk about. Now, let's talk about the second topic, which is openings. I want to give you some guidelines for how to actually use openings and when you are learning enough or when is it too much. Openings have very simple rules if you're just a beginner. We want to learn the first 5 to 10 moves. That's the first one. We want to learn 2 openings, not more. We want to then learn also the main ideas of that opening. 3 guidelines, it is very simple. When I started first, what I've done is I've learned the Italian and the Caro-Kann. You don't have to learn these ones, you can pick others. These are just the ones that were the simplest for me. Because of how I think, my playstyle, it was just easier for me to do this. You need to also pick 2 openings, one for white, another one for black, that you can learn, but you can also you will have fun doing them on repeat. So something that you can actually go on for 15 games now in a row with. Why is this? That's gonna, instead of making you mediocre in 4 different openings, it's going to make you very, very, very good in one opening that you use. Especially, this is important if you're doing this for white. Now, obviously this opening needs to be very common, so don't choose an opening now which is rare and will not happen a lot. That's very important with this. So I'll just show you quickly what do I mean by this with the Italian opening. So for example, this is an opening that I use that exists for white, just so that you get the understanding of what do I mean by learning the first 5 to 10 moves and so on. So first of all, it's an opening that is done mainly by white. Pawn to e4, e5, knight to c3, knight to c3, knight to c6, bishop to c4. It's very usual. Now it's the Italian. Okay, in here there are a few moves that I am familiar with that black can do. So there's the obvious ones, knight to f6, there's bishop to c5. Okay, for both of them I have usually the same idea of what I'm going to do, right? So for example, let's say bishop to c5, I do pawn to c3. I know that you usually think that the knight will go there, but it's specifically because of the plan that I have. The knight will eventually go to d2, f1, and g3. It's part of the plan, and consolidate more power on the king side. Sometimes that's the case. If they follow with bishop to c5, then let's say for example, then they do knight to I don't know, knight to f6, pawn here, they castle, I castle too. It's a regular game. I do knight here. Excuse me, they need to move first. Let's say for an example, they do this. Again, the usual thing. Knight here, rook here. Like you see that I'm familiar with this. Let's say for example a6, right? They will get here and try to kick the bishop. Okay, it happens a lot. It's absolutely fine. I go then with a move, for example. Okay, a4 can happen. But you see, I know the opening, or at least I have some understanding above a normal beginner in it. That gives you then the advantage when you start the opening. You know what should happen and what shouldn't happen. And if that makes them, by the way, makes the openings more difficult for your opponents than to play in. It makes them likelier to blunder because of it. Opening principles is very, very simple, and it's following this basic opening ideas. By move 10, We have some key objectives that we want to achieve in every single game. Sometimes move 11, move 9, but that's the key idea. And you can literally, by the way, memorize it. It's the same for every single game. By approximately move 10 to 13, I have some control over the center, meaning I have some of my pawns and pieces aim there. Alright, that's the first thing. Second one is that I've actually brought some pieces outside of their original squares. That's very important. I developed some of them. That's the second one. Thirdly, by move 10, I already castled, meaning my king is already in a place where I know it's safe, right? And the fourth one is I brought the queen out, meaning I actively brought the queen out and connected between the rooks. They will see each other by approximately move 15. That's the aim with this. Now in here it's a little bit different because an opening that I've just planned, but for opening principles, if you don't know what to do in an opening, you follow these key rules. Okay, literally you can write them on the wall, wherever you want, and just follow this. That's the simplest thing for opening principles. We've talked so far about blunders, openings, and opening principles. Now we're going to talk about the fourth one, which will help you with the first one. We're going to talk now about tactics. So now we're going to talk again about tactics, okay, which is the thing which is the most important in order to help you to stop blunders, but also to utilize when your opponents are doing blunders. The reason for this is that tactics, like the one that you're going to see right now, are all about patterns. Okay, they're about patterns and recognizing when there's one of these patterns in front of you. Now, I took these from puzzles that I found online. There are 4 main tactics that you need to be familiar with and understand. Okay, and the way that you're going to do this is every time that you log into chess.com, you practice a certain tactic for, like, let's say, anywhere from 10 to 30 times, okay, in puzzles, of course, so it's going to be very quick. But in short, that's going to make you very familiar with basic tactics, which will inevitably make you a lot less likely to blunder, but also a lot more likely to recognize when your opponents are blundering, because they always do. Now let's talk about the first tactic, which is also the most important one, in my own opinion. White have done the move rook to a7. I want you to solve this puzzle right now yourself and see if you can do it. So basically what you're asking is, well, should you trade? Basically what you're asking is what you should do with your queen, because she's under threat. Now, either move her away or take it. The correct answer to this puzzle is to take the rook. The queen captures the rook, then you're moving with your own queen. Then what's likely to happen by white is he's going to take the queen. That's what we expect to happen, okay? But then there's the very important move, bishop to c5. And I'll explain to you, if you don't know what a fork is, that's the tactic. The fork is a tactic where one piece, for example, is attacking 2 other pieces. Basically, the bishop that we have is attacking the white king and the white queen, which will inevitably mean that you will end up being a rook for a bishop after the queen takes. That's the fork tactic in very, very short and simple terms. You will need to experience it more for yourself. I'd suggest you actually not to wait until this video ends. Go into chess.com right now, and I want you to specify in there, or in Lichess, wherever is more convenient to you, but specify in there for the fork tactic and do 10 and 20 until you find it very, very convenient to find this tactic. It's actually very valuable to stop this video and go ahead and do it, and then come back to this video. It'll take you like 5 minutes, not long. Now, moving from the fork tactic, now you're having a second tactic, which will be called a discovered attack. I want you to sit down right now and figure which one is it. If you're advanced and you're anywhere above 1000, you probably already can see the tactic, but I just need to get this right for the beginner players. So it's very simple for me to see it, because I've done this tons of times. But if you're just a beginner, it's very important that you see this one, because this is the basic of all the knowledge that you're going to gain in chess. So the obvious tactic, in my opinion, is you can see the rook in here is aiming an unprotected knight, right? And you're having the ability to move a piece to reveal this attack. That's, in very, very simple terms, discovered attack. A discovered attack is when a piece moves away and it reveals an attack of one piece to another one. So for example, with this rook to the knight, it reveals the attack, and in case you're asking what's in it then, also by the way, this is an attack on the bishop, so even if the knight moves, you're still winning from this. So that's the whole tactic. And I want you to do the exact same practice for the discovered attack, just like you've done for the fork. Pause the video again right now, go into the same app that you've used before, practice in there 10 to 20 discovered attacks. This is usually how it's called, discovered attacks. Once you've done that, come back to this video. Now, this one is, we have talked already about the example that I'm going to show you here. This is a tactic which is called the pin. All right, I want you to sit there and find the move for white. What to do in a situation like this one? Well, it's obviously, it's very, very simple for me because I can see it already, but obviously this pawn is pinned, it cannot move, so it couldn't take this pawn right here. This one is defenseless. What you do is you can, right, take the rook, move it to h6, check, the king is gonna take the rook, and then it's a checkmate. All right, but that's in very short the pin tactic. If you find it a little bit difficult to find any of this, don't worry, this comes with a lot of practice initially. So again, if you feel like you're having a difficulty at noticing these things, literally stop the video again, just go ahead to chess.com, lichess, wherever you want, and in there specify to the pin tactic and literally just practice 30 pin tactics. That's simple. Moving on to the last tactic and the last topic of today is we're going to talk now about another one which is called the skewer. A skewer is a little bit less common, but happens all of the time still. It's this particular one. So now following for the last tactic. Okay, let's say for a moment that white makes a mistake, for example. So following now for the last tactic, which is the skewer. I wanted to try this with this particular puzzle because in it I wanted to first of all find the first tactic that you see, and then we're also going to talk about the skewer tactic in this game. So initially there is a fork tactic in here, if you do not see it. The first one is queen to e2. All right, you're attacking obviously the king and the knight. Very simple thing. The king moves, take, and I want you to think about what will happen from now on. Basically from this position, what's the sequence of moves that's going to happen that will lead to you winning the white queen on h7. And I'll show you this. Basically, what you can do is once the king moves, it only has two real options. Let's say, for example, they move to g4, what the computer wants. Then in here, what you're going to do is you see how, just a minute, the white king will have only one direction to move to. So basically, you're going to make a check, right? Let's say, for an example, the king will move here. Then you will have this, right? Queen here, queen to d3 basically. And you can see how the queen is aiming at the king and at the queen later on. A skewer is basically when an important piece exists and it's being attacked. So it basically now has to move to not be taken, and basically the lesser important piece is going to fall. So for example, in here the most important piece is obviously the king. It's in check, it has to move somewhere, e6 for example, and the queen is going to fall. That's the skewer tactic in an example like this. Tactics, opening principles, openings, the scene again. Tactics, opening principles, openings, and avoiding blunders. These are the four main concepts that you need to focus on right now if you're just starting to play chess. This will take you anywhere from 800, anywhere below 1000, all the way up into 1200. That's the key thing to take from this. If you are anywhere below 1200, it's because you lack one of these four. If you're anywhere below 1200, it's because you lack one of these four. That's basically it for today's video. If you have any questions, leave them below. And I want to mention, by watching a sort of like a roadmap video, a video like this one, you're going to be way likely to then level up to actually 1200 or 1300, even maybe, if you're going to take it to the next step and learn calculations. If you have any questions about these topics, leave them in the description. I'll do my best to answer all of them. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.